Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
Seriously, Dad? Seriously, Dad? Two father comedians out of Philadelphia. Seriously, Dad?
Dad? Seriously?
Seriously, Dad? And we're good. We're here. We're
Seriously?
live. I thought he had 5
Seriously,
fingers
guys?
up.
Yeah,
That's it. I was like, I was
World.
3, 2, 1. Now we are live. This is our
Live.
first live one. I'm pumped about it because it's like the toothpaste thing we do with elementary students. We're like, you got to put the toothpaste on a plate, then you give them like a little
bullshit spatula.
paper. Yeah, and you're like, hey, put it back in.
So that's why you don't say curse words to your friends, right?
That's right. That's right. So you got to be careful what you say.
There's no delay on this, right?
No, there's no delay.
Out.
Neil's like, are you kidding me?
Okay, so here's what you Republicans need to know.
Well, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, no, dude, we're live. This is exciting. So if you guys are, however you're at, drop some comments in YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to be talking about little nature versus nurture today.
Oh, that's the question of the time.
Isn't it? I remember being in a Psych 100 class
in
like, undergrad and like having that topic come up because it's so.
And Sigmund Freud, I almost said Siegfried and Roy. I had to stop myself. I was like, wait a minute, is it Siegfried and Roy?
Wait, which one got mauled by a lion?
Yeah.
It was all in your subconscious.
It never really happened.
It never
did.
Yeah,
so that's the question of every I guess every parenting decision, right?
Well, not
decision, but like
hindsight.
I think in hindsight, you always ask yourself, did I nurture that or did nature make this little bastard this way?
Right. Yeah, right. Well, I'm doing all this grad work right now, and a lot of it's like a family systems class, and it's about families that have disabilities, and it's taught from the teacher perspective, like how you should approach families because of all the things they might have going on.
Right.
And and obviously with the disability, there's a ceiling on, depending on the disability, what you could do. So it made me think as I was writing stuff to say like, oh wow, how much is it nature? How much is it nurture? And is it like statistics where you can cop out and be like, well, it's all nature.
That's a standard deviation. Well, let me ask you a question. Are you telling me that you are doing school research and then you're like taking that research and writing jokes with them?
So actually, I'm more parenting with it. And I'm hoping that eventually, because some of the stuff's so fresh that I'll read these case studies about these kids and they'll like trigger me because it'll remind me something about Alicia or something there. And then I'll be like teary eyed, like trying to finish reading this chapter 6 in a textbook because it's so
there's always
triggered.
Something that relates to your family
in
some way, shape, or form.
And I was in a class the other night and like I'm sitting there for 2 hours and I'm just at the end of it, I had to then write a whole email to my daughter's teacher. She wanted to do like student council. Okay. And so she brought home a student council paper and she brought home a chorus paper. And I'm like, I don't know if she really understands what they are. And I didn't want to discourage her. So we sat her down. We're like, hey, what do you think you're doing with student council? And she gave some kind of blanket statement that was like helping people. So
she's already a good politician. She bullshit her way right through that.
But I'm like, is the school ready for her to be included in this? I know they just started being inclusive and having kids with special needs in there, but I didn't know how inclusive they were going to be. So I had to write an email and be like, this is the stuff she's done before. She did volunteering today, as a matter of fact, where she's handed out pamphlets. She's an ambassador for the county fair. But yeah, so I immediately applied the class by then writing an email, but from the other side,
from a different voice.
So it's sort of interesting because I get to play the other side in this class. Yeah. Because they're all teachers who maybe have experienced kids with autism or disabilities in their classroom, but now I'm a teacher, but I'm also the other side of that equation. Okay. I am a parent with it. So it's
my history, I got kicked out of student council. My political career was very short.
Did you have to give a speech?
And then when I got kicked out, or
but to get into
it, I think they just voted me because I was like, cool. And then I was taking all the perks. I was getting out of school early. I was going through all these things, but I wasn't doing anything for like my class or bringing them back any information. So I got voted out. So that was my political career was very short.
Well, that's what you always promise, that you're going to put chocolate milk in the water fountains.
So let's just hit it right off. Parenting, right? You got 100%. What percentage do you think is nature and what percentage do you think is nurture? Just right off, like instinct. Give me the instinctual answer.
50-50.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. We disagree.
What do you think?
I think it's probably more like a 70-30.
To which who's winning?
Nurture 70, nature 30.
Okay.
Yeah, I think nurture plays a big role in, but I like how you handle your emotions. I think is a product of being nurtured, right? So like, kid spills this cup, right? A lot of kids may start crying right away just because there's loud noise. They know there's a mess there, and then what do the parents do with that ball of emotions, right?
Yeah.
Is it like, oh, it's okay? Oh, you're in trouble. And I think most of that is what ends up shaping a person going through life. My personal opinion, right off the
Yeah.
rip.
Yeah, well, and I agree with you because I was starting to write more bits about it, and then I was like, as I was doing, I was like, yeah, how much is like this, like, and am I using it, like I said, as a cop out to be like, well, it's
What's
not
gonna
nothing I
happen
can do
anyway?
about
What
it.
could I have done? You know,
And I wonder, a lot of the parents that we see where they're not involved, there are kids that even despite their parents not being involved are successful,
right?
because they have other people that are surrogates.
Yeah,
They have other
exactly.
people that are giving them. Because I think parenting, as much as I want to say I'm a model citizen, I know that I'm also teaching them how not to be a parent. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
know there's certain
Oh
things.
yeah, they will definitely use information from their experience with you to not do in the future.
Because like I'm always
100%.
yelling at them about their room. Like I'm not like I'll walk by the room, I'll see it, they'll have the light on. I'm mad that the light's on, and now I just start barking at them.
Jay's house is clean as shit.
And it's so
Like,
not.
Jay,
It's not.
but you want it to be.
I want
you
it to
want
be.
it to be. I know you. I know because I've been in your car. We spent a lot of time together. We talk. Your notes are immaculate, like your schedule, and I know you want that house to be clean as shit, and it's not, and it drives you nuts.
I just shared something to our story on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, it was Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm gonna probably pronounce his name incorrectly. But he has this whole bit about talking about if you think you're going to have kids and a clean house, those goals do not match up.
Absolutely not.
Because kids are chaos. They're chaos and disorder. And like hearing that calmed me down. It was almost like, oh, okay, there's some nature in this that I can't like, this is okay. So sometimes I like the nature part because then I'm like, you know what? This is just the nature of the beast. This is just how it is. Don't get crazy
you can't
about it.
apologize for the process. I remember me and my dad had a moment where it's kind of like this. It was me, my dad, and Lainey, and she was dropping something, and it was like, I wasn't angry, but I was getting a little frustrated. I was like, okay. And my dad said, no, she's finding out what gravity is, and I was like, oh shit, like,
Yeah.
you are right. She's realizing that things fall. And for us, of course they fall. Why wouldn't they fall? It's 9.8 meters per second squared. We got Isaac Newton, Apple fell in his head, the whole thing. But she doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Right? So she's like, oh, it falls. And it makes a noise when it falls. And some things break when they fall. But we do have a tendency to get in the way of that process of them figuring out life. And that's probably like one of the worst things you can do, I would say, right?
Well, that was, and that's his point. Like that was his point in the video too. It was like, they're trying to figure out their environment. They're manipulating and figuring it out. And if we keep stepping in, then they don't get to enjoy that process. They don't get to enjoy that journey. Like, and my mom does, I see that with my mom. She'll walk, because she lives with us. She'll walk in and immediately start telling them they'll be getting a toy out. And she's already talking about that they better be cleaning it up.
Away, right.
And I'm like, what a damper. Like, what a damper. And then but then I see I do it. And then I'm like, oh, this is you. Now here I am doing the same stuff I hated that my mom just did to them. And I'm like, let them enjoy it.
That would be nurture.
So it's like a learned behavior
yeah.
that I'm passing on, this neuroses that my mom's given me about having a clutter-free place. It's just not reality. And my wife understands that concept better than I do. But it still bothers me. I don't know if that's why I was like, with my own, I was like my own tendencies. We talk about autism being on a spectrum. I'm like, I have tendencies as I've been reading more stuff where I'm realizing totally. Yeah. I was like, yeah, we all know. But like,
so what goes through your head when the room is not as immaculate as you want it? Like what sets you off?
I get a feeling, it's like a visceral reaction. I just have this feeling of like antsiness in my body. And I can't, I don't know. It messes with me.
You're not centered. You can't find your zero, right?
Like I can't. Yeah, it gets to me. Like I don't know why. It gets in my head, and that's why I can't even put words to it. And I'm like, it's just one of those things that bothers me that I just have to learn how to cope with. So today I was like immediately like filing all the old mail, and like you just not enough time to do all
He
this
files
stuff.
the old mail. You file the old mail. I do not file the old mail.
Well, some of it you rip up. I would say 90% I ripped up, but like
I burn. I try to burn the mail.
yeah. Do you do the thing where you rip it into a million shreds because you think someone's
and then
going
I
to
put
go
one
through your
in, in
trash?
this charge bag, and
Yeah,
I put that
it's
trash
like,
can because they're crafty. They're crafty. Those criminals.
My ex only shredded.
Really?
Yeah.
She would just, it would pile up, and then
I would
eventually
just
the
put it
shredding
in the
would
middle when the girls were younger. I would just put the stuff in the middle of a poopy diaper.
Oh, okay. Nobody
Good luck,
nobody
buddy.
wants that one. Yeah.
Yeah, put it in the diaper genie bag.
So now I'm going to say this on the heels of all that. As someone who is a bit disorganized, I know a guy who's a bit disorganized.
I know it.
Part of me wishes that someone would have nurtured me just a little more on like, hey, keep your shit organized, big fella.
Yeah.
Keep your just a little bit. Like, you don't have to be like alphabetize your toys. But let's keep it a little organized so you don't lose things. Like how many times have I left my keys in this studio? My wallet or keys in this studio?
a decent amount.
Yeah. Now it's getting better, but like, and I wish that someone would have picked up on that when I was a little younger and started trying to make a habit of me not doing that, because as a almost 40-year-old man, it sucks.
Yeah.
Scrambling around the house looking for something, you got to get out of the door and you're like, where is it? Oh, that is a horrible feeling.
Yeah, my mom definitely instilled that, because like even when I had my first job and I started getting paychecks, she had me do this system of envelopes where I had to write on the like, so after I cashed the check and got the money, I had to put the stuff in the envelope for whatever it was for, spending money,
Nice.
you know, bike money, whatever the case may be, hookers, you know, like the typical stuff. The typical 16-year-old stuff. But like that, I think even though I didn't uphold that, but here's the problem. I don't stick with that system. But like now when I think about how my bank accounts are, like I have a whole separate account just for comedy.
Part of that system has,
I have a whole separate card just for us. You know, as Amanda and I have all our money together. When we first started, we had our joint account, but then we had 2 separate accounts that were our like spending money that we didn't have to.
The Jews call that the pishka.
Is that what it is? Where you don't have to tell the other about
your own money. That's your own thing.
But my wife's really good about just stealing money out of my wallet, and I'm not, and I don't realize. Like she'll just take a 20 here, take like
the Jews call that the Gentiles.
and then we'll go on vacation, and I kid you not, she will have a wad of like $700
Nice.
that she's just accrued over like picking my pocket for the year.
It's crafty.
Or like that she'll get the change, and then she'll take it to the supermarket, drop it in the Coinstar. So like she's really frugal and savvy. Because I mean, she doesn't have many vices. She likes iced coffee, but half the time she's so good that she'll take my used coffee and put it over ice, then go buy a coffee.
Really?
Like, yeah, she'll do that. Like,
you guys will probably retire young. Those are habits of young.
You know what I mean? Like, she's smart with that. Whereas, like, but I'm like, I would just as soon,
I would never in my life drink used coffee.
Really?
Lucy coffee. No, I would never.
I think it's a nurture thing, because when I went to my in-laws, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law makes a pot of coffee at start of the week, and then just keeps reheating it for him for the rest of the week.
Ooh.
That's
Albert. You talk about a visceral feeling.
There's some nurture.
If I was in that house and I saw that pot of coffee, like just
it's 90 cents. Make another pot.
Jesus Christ. Oh man.
But no, I get that.
But you know that. When you see your partner, like with Sammy, like is there things there that you see from her family that you're like, oh, she definitely inherited that?
God, yeah.
What's something that annoys you that she's inherited from her family?
You know what? She's probably watching the Eagles game, so she's not listening.
Yeah, you're safe.
Well, I see her sister's relationship with her husband.
Okay.
And then I see my relationship with her, and I realize that they're very consistent in how like certain things would set them off, and then it's like, oh boy, here we go, and it's like, God damn, like, it's not a big deal, but they both will get set off at things, and then some things that you think are like, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble, they'll just like laugh it off. And then it's like, oh yeah, I accidentally put the lights in. It's like, what? And she does this thing where she makes sure I hear about it for like 10 minutes. Like she doesn't let it go.
Yeah.
It's like, shut the I get it. I'll switch them next time. Not a big deal. But it's like, but do you understand why? Yes, I understand why. And I'm not trying to be, and I'm like, okay, I get it. And I know that they got that. I know that.
I wonder if that was how her parents talked to them.
Definitely.
growing up. You know what I mean? Like that's the piece that I'm like, I got to be careful. The things I'm saying right now are going to have impact down the line. It's like the butterfly effect. There's going to be these little ripples now.
Yeah. Well,
that,
I mean,
you know,
it probably happens with like things like substance, like alcohol, substance abuse, right? If you live in a house where dad comes home, sits down, cracks a Miller Lite, gets another Miller Lite, you're probably going to grow up to think that drinking Miller Lite is like what you do.
Yeah.
Right. Like sit
Correct.
down, crack the Miller Lite. You know what I mean? You know, if you live in a house where mom makes dinner, and you're probably going to grow up in a world where, you know, that's what it is, you know? So it's going to happen. So some of the shit that they're seeing out of you guys, they're going to be doing.
That's what I wonder with me being out, like with me being on the road a lot. We talk about it. Like every time I leave, you know, they greet me and say goodbye and do all that. And my oldest Alicia always asks me, where's the show? What time is it? What time will you be home? Like she runs the gamut of wanting to know all the info. But like I wonder that too, because then they're now going to have this period of time in their lives where they don't see me, or like for part of November. It's like that I got to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because when I hear a lot of comics talk, like Chris DiStefano was on Bert's podcast at one point, and he like broke down into tears talking about like missing like birthdays and things like that.
Yeah, that's tough stuff. That's really tough stuff. And then, you know, when you talk about the nurture, what relationships are they going to put themselves in? Are they going to end up in a relationship with a man or woman, who knows, who is never around and kind of like always at a distance? And is it going to affect their family? And I think you do a pretty good job of like keeping your family grounded and intact, right?
Yeah.
But there's right. You'll find out. But you know, there's people who probably struggle with that, or like, yeah, my husband or wife leaves on Monday, comes back on Friday, and we hang out for 24 hours on the weekends, and then they sleep and go back out.
Yeah, I try to be so I'm trying to be so intentional about all of that and the time. And my wife's really good. We use Google Calendar, so if Google ever goes down, I'm in trouble. But like that's it. And that's sort of how we put things out, and then we either accept or deny or do whatever. And that's sort of saved us, because then I can see the blocks of time where I'm like, okay, you know, and I make sure I'm free for activities to take them to things or piano lessons, and so that I'm not just doing the fun stuff. I'm doing the.
Let me ask you a question.
Stuff.
What wouldn't you miss? What is it? What wouldn't not happen? Someone says, "Hey, you go, no, can't do it."
I've almost missed everything so far. My anniversary I've missed now.
See, while you're thinking, I'll give an answer.
Another birth. You got to say yes. You're not.
Like
I mean, I'm not. You know, not saying that's in the future. I'm saying like if it was.
Yeah, what do you?
I gotta make that.
Going to get a vasectomy after this.
Yes,
I wouldn't miss something
right
I promised I'd be there for. That would be the answer for me, because right now Lainey's got nothing and Skylar has nothing that is like, this is my thing. Like, you can't miss this. Now that may change, but if I tell you I'm going to be there I'm done. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, I think if any one of them had said to me, I want you here for this, that would be it. So like for me, nothing. Yeah, there's nothing I would subscribe other than things that they said.
I want you to be
I want you there for this.
I feel the same way.
Then that to me is what would be most important, because I mean all of the other stuff, like, you know, how often do we actually celebrate our birthday on our birthday? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you know, so things like that is, as long as it's worked into the schedule, you know, it's you make sacrifices. I mean, you know, I've heard of numerous people that I look up to, Steve Harvey, you know, things like that, where they say you're going to sacrifice something if you're really going after this and you're really doing it to the level that we're trying to do it. You're going to miss something, but at the same time, like having these mornings with my daughters that I'm the only one in the house with them in the morning, getting them up, doing their hair, getting them on the bus, so it's really cool that I'm getting those time, and I try to take advantage of that, so that like I'm making those memories, and not the ones of like, oh yeah, dad wasn't here for bedtime again.
Yeah. I mean, I asked, I think maybe a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, you know, we're walking around the neighborhood, and I just say, hey, does it bother you that I'm not around all the time, like some of your friends?
It's a good question. What they say?
She says no. She thinks about it though, so I don't know if she says
she doesn't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah. She says no, but she says in a way where she probably would like to, and you know, I say, you know, I apologize. And I'm sorry that this is a situation that we made, and I'd be around a lot more, but I live here, you live there and stuff. And then I say, do you want me to come here? Do you want me to spend more time with you? Do you feel like you're not getting enough time? She says no, but I think she maybe feels that way a little bit. And now I take that information. Now I got to do what I do with it. I can't just be like, all right, I took the survey. Now we're gone. So, but now I get it. Like she, and she lives in South Jersey in the cul-de-sac communities where there's a lot of nuclear families.
What's door to door? What does it take you without like on a what's
1
the
hour
ideal route? Okay,
1
hour.
hour. Yeah. So it's an hour there. You hang out an hour back. When she was born, I would go. No, now she's born. She's like 2, 3, 4, whatever. I would go pick her up, hour, go back to Philly, hour, back to Jersey, hour. So I'd spend 4 hours in a car in one day.
Just going up and down. Yeah.
And that's what it is, because we talked about last time. That's the bet I made.
Yep.
That's on me. And as annoying as that hour trip is, it's not her fault.
No, exactly.
She didn't ask for that shit. You know what I mean? And I'll probably start making more trips, because her answer did not sell me 100% that she loves the way it is.
Well, that's good. That's good. I try to ask them like questions that to shake them up a little bit too, like after school, especially with Alicia, because her use of like, I guess like I was reading a chapter on it today, pragmatics, like the ability to read context into a situation. Like when you hear words to also infer extra pieces beyond it, she struggles with that because that's a typical thing that kids on the spectrum struggle with. So I try to ask stuff like, what's something that made you smile today? Or what's something that, frustrated you today? And do things that, are things that maybe, and the same with Katie, just to try to get them to say something to see what's bothering them. Because will they tell us when something's bothering them?
Yeah.
Will they tell? Will at least even know when she's being bullied? And like things like that. Will she be able to tell me that she's being bullied? Like, or will we just notice she's acting out and we're gonna have to like
Sherlock
trace
Holmes
the
your way
steps and
into,
CSI
she's being bullied. Watson.
Do a functional behavior assessment. I'm learning so much.
You're using a lot of big words.
I've learned. I'm getting I better. I'm
what chapter you
putting
on?
the great.
What chapter you on?
Chapter 6.
Okay, these guys put in the work.
Chapter 6. So, but
well,
yeah.
But like Skylar had a soccer game this weekend, and she's they're in like 5-year-old soccer, so it's just a bunch of kids chasing the ball around. And last weekend there was
that's what all soccer is, by the way. Sorry if you love soccer.
To our World Cup fans out there. Well, last weekend, Skylar's on the shorter side. She's a smaller kid, and there was a bigger kid, or maybe just more aggressive kid, kept on knocking Skylar over, and the mom was really acting like an asshole. She was like way too excited, making too much noise. She was kind of like taunting the other players. But I also wasn't there for it because I was down the street at Laney's game. Because they
so the mom of the bigger kid?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Sammy was with Skylar.
Okay.
So she's like, hey, this kid's, and I said, well, you grab Skylar and tell her to push her back.
You don't take no.
Now that's a nurture move right there. But it, if I say things like, well, tell Skylar to apologize to her and see if she wants to come over to the house and be friends. I feel like I'm like kind of putting her in a position where I'm nurturing a shitty behavior to someone pushing you. You know what I mean? Especially in sports, right? You meet with the same aggression, right? You push them back. They kick you kick them back. So I'm like, tell Skylar to push her back. So this last weekend, this girl pushed pushed her down. And I was like, shit. But she did push Skylar first, and that's what she was told to do. I hope I didn't create a monster.
Right? So but those are the situations I'm talking about where you're like, I'm like, I feel like I should say this, but I want to say this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I should say rise above, be a bigger person. But in reality, you're like, you know what? Ref's not looking. Give a little hip check. Those are the forks in the road. And, you make a decision in the moment, and it's kind of like voting. Like, you hope people did their research, but, people are just pulling the lever,
Right.
and they want the sticker.
Yeah.
Well,
and I grew up with you may have met my dad. Very chill, very relaxed guy. My dad's probably...
Has he always been that chill?
He's always been chill. Yeah,
Okay.
He's probably never even been in a fist fight in his life. I don't even know. My mom, probably been in about 40 of them. Like... Some of them are probably dudes. Like she's the hard-nosed one. She's the hard-nosed one. She's the tough one. She's the one who's not going to let you do some slick shit. She's not going to say some slick shit. So I was able to see both sides of that nurture piece of like, you get a little more bees with honey. My dad gets all the bees. My dad's killing it with the bees. But my mom is a B, right? My mom was like, yo, don't fuck, you will get stung if you fuck around and find out kind of deal. And I think I was very lucky to see that dichotomy, to see both of that, because then I realized there's some situations, eat a little crow, let someone think they're right, and you're going to get a little more, you know what I mean? And then there's some situations where you got to stand up and poke your chest out and push a motherfucker back, you know what I mean? So that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you guys think with sports? I mean, can we dive on that more? Like, it's sports, so, and you don't want it to be like, even the hip check sounds, but like within the rules of the sport, I would say like, hey, you know, you gotta be more aggressive when you're defending the ball. Like, I would say that was okay.
Yeah.
In other words, I would say the hip check or whatever. Like,
yeah.
But I'd be like, you're in the bounds of the game. Like, you got to get them off. That's,
I'm not even angry at the other girl for pushing Skylar. If they're running for the ball and this girl's doing this,
happens.
Skylar needs to learn that she can do the same thing. I'm not angry at the other kid.
So the teacher in me is like the analogy of the language stuff. Like, within language, there's semantics, but there's pragmatics. So I think there are rules that you follow the rule, and it would say that's outside of the rules. But the pragmatics of the situation, when you're reading all of the pieces together, I mean, in order to be successful at sports, you have to be aggressive. And when you're taming that beast, there's going to be times where they push the boundaries.
Right.
And I think that's natural. I think, but you can't write that down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the ebb and flow of things. That's why you can't parent in a vacuum. Things are going to happen. Your mood in that moment is going to dictate what you say to them. Like, if you just feel like your boss was just giving you the business and you had to sit there and take it and eat crow, you might tell her to like do that because you want her to live vicariously through her.
Punch her in the nose.
So if your boss ever does that to you, I think it's a lot of it's. I think that's what I'm realizing as I'm thinking more about this nature versus nurture, and I'm trying to think about it myself. I just realized that nobody knows anything. Like I've been doing this through line in my act now, where like there's no rule book for parenting. Like they don't prepare you.
No, and
like,
you only find out. You find out when it's over. You find out how good of a parent you were, and I've been trying to write a joke, but I just have been slacking. But you find out how good you are when your kid's 27 and comes back home for Thanksgiving and maybe gets too drunk or brings home a guy instead of a girl. Then you realize, oh shit, that's what I ended up creating. Like your creation comes out when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and that's
when
the hard part.
You don't get it. Yeah.
So I guess the only thing I can do with that personally is to say, all right, if I listen to the tuning fork inside me, if I just say, hey, when I'm giving this advice, do I feel like I'm doing it with a clear mind and it's coming from an honest place? If that's the case, then I'm doing the best I can with what I got in that moment. I'm playing the hand I have right now, and I'm trying to get better personally at that, because with all of the things I'm spinning, I have to prioritize and say, you know what? I got an 80% on this quiz. I could have studied a little bit harder and I got 100, and I would have stressed about that, but I don't have time to do that because I have 9 million other things going on. And that's what parenting is. It's like, and that's what we're trying to prepare the kids for. They're going to do 9 million things.
Well, I would say, I think that my personal opinion is that your kids are like you, right? We created them. They're 50% you.
Yep.
Right. And you have to happen to know the other 50% very, very well. So probably like when you're what do you call it, the internal tuning fork?
Yeah, the tuning fork.
I like that. Boom. Right?
Yeah.
When you're tuning that and you're going through and you're smacking it off the edge of the table, I guess think of like when I was her age, how would I like this to have been explained to me? Because they're 50% you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're gonna kind of probably react and feel a little bit like you would feel. When I was a kid, I hated getting yelled at. And I think through a nurture thing, getting yelled at for a long period of time made my confidence very small. And I was always afraid to be wrong. Even like at school, I wouldn't answer questions unless the teacher called on me because they didn't think I was paying attention. Then I would get it right. But I was not the one to raise my hand and say, this is the answer, and I'm 100% sure of that, because I was afraid to be wrong. And I feel like I was nurtured into, like, you know what I mean? So now what I try to, when they are wrong, I try to talk about what is wrong. Why is it wrong? And sometimes it's like, who cares if you're wrong? Sometimes I even say, like, who cares? You thought this and it wasn't that. Move on.
Yeah.
You learned.
I was trying to take my own inventory as I was listening to you talk about that. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like I want it, because my goal is to always explain too, because I hated getting yelled at. But so what I think I'm doing, I don't know if I'm doing this. We'll have to ask my daughter when she's 27. But what I think I'm doing is I'm giving gentle reminders when I see some, hey, babe, don't forget, we got to clean your room. So, before we head out. And I hope I'm doing it just calmly and matter of factly. And then when I get to the yelling, it's because there have been 7 other reminders that have been ignored, and now I'm threatening to like snap her tablet in half if she doesn't turn
It's
it
funny.
off.
It's because you don't. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard you yell or even seen you like.
Yeah, I
angry or
mean, it's
upset. So,
I-
Well,
it's
he's also been a teacher for 17 going on soon to be, like 18 years or something like that. So
Yeah.
he's had to have had been like,
Yeah.
put that
That's-
down. Like, it's
for the love of
definitely,
God,
yeah.
But no, yeah. When you get to you find ways to, especially when you're a teacher or a comedian or on whatever, like you put on, I don't want to say a mask, but I heard a good description of that in a podcast. They were like a mask, and they're like, when you find your partner, it's not that they take off the mask, they adjust the mask for you because they don't make you take the mask off. It just they can kind of see through it, and it
Deep, that was
becomes
deep.
more transparent for them because they know the mask serves a purpose for you.
I haven't gotten to there yet.
It serves a
with anybody.
purpose.
That sounds
So
beautiful.
when you're like putting on this, like, not that I'm not who I am, but like in moments of weakness, or like if I'm like trying to get 10 different things and I'm tired from being out so late, and I take, you're gonna eventually take that out, or you're gonna have a shorter fuse than you would.
Does your wife check you? Will she be like, "Yo, you gotta chill"? babe.
Yo, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Too much. Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. And she's gentle about it too. Unless I'm way out of line. And then she'll be equally like, I'll get this look from her that I wouldn't normally get.
Mhm.
And that's what you need. That's the other thing you need in a partner. You need someone who's going to check you like that
Yeah.
in a way that's not threatening, but gets to the degree if it's serious, in the same way that you don't see me, because unless something's at DEFCON 2, I'm not going to react unless my world's upside down and I'm not calibrated properly, or there's something wrong.
Messy kitchen or something.
Yeah, messy kitchen, but yeah, no, I think the hope is that the human part of us is that we can take that part of our brain that's animalistic and hold back. That's what I think makes us human, is we have the ability to hold in those behaviors. And that's the part for my daughter, like my oldest daughter, that she struggles. Like, we were walking, my mom's in this rehab for her. She had a knee reconstructed.
I'll be there soon.
And we were walking out, and she was ahead of me in the lobby. And sometimes some of the people, it's a long-term care, it's short-term care, it's all sorts of people in there.
Oh yeah.
And all I hear is Alicia say, "Whoa, that guy has a disappearing knee." He's obviously had his leg amputated.
Okay.
And she just was like, "Where's his knee?" It was like no holds barred, just talking. And the guy's right there.
Can
The
the guy
guy's
hear?
as
Can the
close
guy
as
hear?
I am
Can
to
the
you.
guy
Oh,
hear?
yeah,
Okay.
right there. She's like right in front
Did he
of his
react?
face.
Did he react to her?
Well, I'll be honest. I was so embarrassed I didn't make eye contact. And I just kind of ushered her as I outwardly explained,
So he could hear you.
so that he could hear that I was like, explaining it in a way. I'm like, "Oh no, that's called an amputation. Sometimes when people get sick, they have to save their lives by taking out a limb. And that's what happened."
Okay.
So I try to do that because those kind of things happen all the time.
Yeah.
Like I had my joke that I was doing forever about her asking in the middle of a restaurant if she could talk about black people, and she just wanted to talk about, she was like reading about Dr. Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, and she just wanted, she was learning at school that she has to pick the appropriate times to talk. And so she was just asking if this was the appropriate time to talk about black people. So it's just like those funny things keep happening, and it's just like, it's adorable, but I have to like nurture her as much. But I wonder with her how much of a ceiling, but I have to trust that there's a lot of nurture that can help. And so I don't want to be like, well, she just won't get it, she's autistic. And I never want to be like that with her.
Right.
I want her to break through whatever ceiling we think. Because, I mean, there was a time we didn't think she'd ever talk. I mean, there was a time I didn't think she'd ever potty train. And now she talks up a storm, and she insists that she won't let us go to the bathroom with her, which sometimes if we're in a movie theater, that makes me nervous because I'm sitting in row 2.
Right.
Now she's down some hallway. I can't there's certain things that I won't do, but I won't go in a bathroom with her, but I'll walk to the door. And she'll go in. I'm still nervous. She's going to be worried about missing the movie. She'll forget to pull her pants up and just try to come out with her pants down.
That's
just
That's just totally the game.
But you have to, that's the part. There's this, she gets what's called ABA, which is applied behavioral analytics, and where you study patterns and you help teach them the patterns that will, be behaviorally appropriate. And so there's a lot of what they call discrete trial training, where you over and over drill them on scenarios. You
Right.
teach them smaller behaviors like brushing your teeth in stages or washing your hand and you help them master the little skills so that eventually they'll do the whole activity. And it's like there's so much of that has to be done for her, that it's like it's exhausting, and a lot of it goes on my wife. But even just in interactions, like with that guy with the disappearing knee, like, I can't really teach her not to say, like, I don't want, like, all I can do is explain to her what happened. She'll never be able to, I don't know.
Sorry, Albert,
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Rack
Well, I'm wondering. Well, because I would say that any kid. I mean, I think that's a made up embarrassment. I mean, it's probably a bad time for that guy. Obviously, it's like, hey, this just happened to you. I'm sorry that this had to happen.
The stitches aren't even healed yet, and it's like shit's talking about me.
I'm not to be crass. He might still feel his leg. I'm not trying to make it like a wow. I'm saying this guy's going through a lot, and then the first interaction is a kid being like, well, also kind of beautiful that she was like a magic trick, kind of.
So that's what kind of
beautiful in that way that she was like, they're doing magic in that room, Papa. Like that's adorable. All right, but that's got to be tough. But I would say that, as someone who grew up with my uncle didn't have the use of his legs, since he was born. So it's very common for people to have crutches, especially little kids.
Yeah,
and it's us in our society that like we feel embarrassment and go like, hey man, that's not the worst thing that person has ever heard.
You're right. Learning about gravity.
Yeah.
She's never seen a person.
She's got
she
questions.
probably up until that point didn't even realize a human being could have not a leg, not a foot, whatever it was. So yeah, she's just doing it her way. But I think a lot of 4, 5, 6-year-olds would have probably kind of reacted the same way. So I think and I also think, I don't know how old that gentleman was. He's got to understand.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I think people would much rather that than people just staring.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because then at least you're left to know what they're actually thinking. And so those kind of things happen for her, and that's fine because she's just trying to learn. She's trying to understand her world, and that's cool.
That's what it is.
She didn't call him Lieutenant Dan or anything rude.
No,
do you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I'm not trying to be mean. I'm
roast
serious.
him.
There are terrible things that like adults have said probably to people that are in these situations. When you go with a kid, he has to have the perspective, and I think more people should. It's like there's no shame in this.
Get it. Yeah.
And I think you set it up. I think you did really well with the nurture.
And he knows that it's not there also. I mean, it's not like he understands.
Yeah, if he was like, oh my God, it's gone. Like then we're in a different problem.
That's how you should have answered it.
Yeah, he's like someone, but so where is it? No,
I think you're right though, and I'm glad she does it like that. I'm glad that she is the person she is, because it helps me, because I remember how many times I hid stuff, or there's this concept of camouflaging that they talk, where this is the reason girls tend not to get noticed as much, because they can hide, they can mask some of them, but it hurts them to mask, because then it's like the Newton's law. There's an equal and opposite reaction after. So I watched the movie The Accountant with Ben Affleck.
Right.
So, and he in this, but it was just, they talk a lot about him having high functioning autism in it. And so there's scenes where he's this accountant, and he's like trying to do the niceties of this couple and help them with their taxes. And they're trying to like invite him or tell him they know someone. And he's like trying to be nice to them. And then as soon as he leaves, like his secretary says something to him, and he says, thank you. And he doesn't really mean it, and it doesn't really fit, but he just says it, and he shuts the door. And then he's like, got to go into his office and decompress. Or at night, he puts these flashing lights on, and he's like doing all this stuff to decompress, because
he was like bullshit.
Because of when they're masking like that and they're hiding that. It's like someone with Tourette's. Like if they mask they at some point have to then go isolate. And sometimes if you're being taught to hide who you are, that's never.
I think that's one of the most dangerous things.
Well, and with autism, that's what was happening for so long. Is these behavioral things were trying to get them to conform when they can't. They're not wired to be that way, and so to force them, and that's what some of her teachers prior were doing. All it does is set her up for embarrassment and bullying rather than accepting and including.
I think one of the most dangerous things a human being can do is mask who they are or who they want to be.
Amen.
And I push very hard for be it.
Yeah.
You that's what you want to wear? Rock it, girl. That's what you want to do? Then let's do it. Let's be the best at it you can be.
Yeah.
Not wanting to be this, but just being that person. And I think most adults right now want to be someone else and are masking it hard. And I think that's when you see a lot of substance abuse and a lot of negative behaviors and just things acting out, putting things on their children because they wanted to be someone else.
Yeah.
And they weren't able to be that person. And I think that's a very, very, very dangerous thing because I think that's when the behavior can get very, very toxic and can really affect other people around them. Is when you want to be.
Yeah.
I think with sexuality it happens. I think there's probably, I could be wrong. I think there's probably a good amount of people in this world who are closeted homosexuals.
Sure.
And I feel badly for them because they should just be who they want to be and not burden themselves with trying to hide it. And I think that's when you see a lot of toxic behavior. It's just like that person just wants to be someone else and isn't able to be it.
Oh, and that's why, like for me, when I talk, I talk about my daughter on stage, talk about my parents on stage. I felt like once I did that, it gave me license to put it out there so that I wasn't masking it anymore. And like, so I know like a lot of people say, oh, he's talking about his daughter, he's mining his daughter for material. But honestly, it's helpful for me because it's saying I'm not going to pretend that she doesn't have this, and I'm not going to not talk about it because it's part of my daily life.
That's bullshit. Mining is it's your life.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but like, but the reason I do it is because it helps me not only put that out there for myself, but it's also, I've had so many people, autistic people and parents and grandparents, after every single show I talk about my daughter, fail safe, somebody comes up to me and they'll either say, hey, I'm autistic and that's exactly what I was like was her age, or hey, my kid just graduated from Duquesne, she was exactly like that. And that for me was so powerful and therapeutic that it's like, so it's been so nice to not hide that. Yeah. And because a lot of times with parents with kids with autism or all sorts of disabilities, they don't put them in stuff. Yeah. They don't take them to the family functions. They use it as a crutch. My daughter's kindergarten teacher said that. That she's like, when I went in for a conference, we had a moment and she was like, you know what? I kind of think I sheltered my son a little bit because I was too nervous to put him out there. And I think that's an honest feeling. It's so easy to hide who you are, mask who you are. And I don't think anybody should have to do that. I think that we should be able to be proud of who we are. Maybe we would have a lot less issues, a lot less people turning to drugs and things like that if they felt like they could be who they were and they didn't have to be apologetic about it. You know, I think that's huge.
So we kind of touched on it, but what do we think you guys are like? What have you observed, if anything? What have you observed that you think you guys are maybe lacking in nurturing for your kids that you want to improve on? You've touched on it a little bit. I'm not sure if you got,
I got you off the rip, bro. Yeah, I wish I had more time to nurture behavior, to nurture and model behavior. I wish I had more time. You know, I'm not there. I'm an hour away, non-custodial. You know, it sucks. It's the bed I made. We talked about that before. So just not being able to show them more of the nurture, you know what I mean? Or even modeling behavior, show them how I handle situations. Because I'll tell you right now, me and their mothers, we handle situations very differently. Right. You know, when things don't go my way, I'm a lot different than mom is, right? That it was like that for my family growing up. It's like that for their family. Now there's more stress on mom because mom has it more than I. So I'm not saying she's an evil person or she's wrong, but I do it differently. And I would like them to see more of what I do. To see that, oh, there's a different way to do that. Look, dad got his point across and he did it this way and it's still just as effective. And, you know, that would be my biggest regret is just the amount of time.
Gotcha. And what do you think? Sorry, because what do you think do you think you can change nature in some way? Like, are there things that you see in nature? Because you talked about it a little bit. And is there anything?
I don't think you can change nature. I think nature, it's in there. It's in the DNA. It's why you sleep at night and wake up with the sun. It's in there. And yeah, I guess you can change that, right? People work night shifts and stuff, but I think for the most part, you're set on who you're going to be with certain things.
Right.
Then you can nurture other stuff. But like who you are deep down, it's like you ever meet someone, you ever run into someone from high school?
Sure.
And you're like, you're pretty much the same exact person from high school. You're just a taller, more out of shape version of the 19-year-old dude I was hanging out with years ago. Right. They don't really change that much, right? Gotcha. Even though they've been married, had a divorce, had kids, got a promotion, made millions, whatever. They're still pretty much the same person.
Right.
So I think you can't affect nature's always going to be what nature is, and nature is consistent.
So I would say similar to what I'm lacking first would be, yeah, I mean, like time. I mean, I think during COVID, fortunately for me, I got so much time with them when they were like 3 and 5 till they were 4 and 6. Like we had like a crucial amount of time that we were together all the time, which was great. So I feel like that was awesome. Now I wonder too, like, oh, I'm out a lot. Is that affecting them? Well, it's almost bedtime for them, so they're winding down.
There's
and things
parents
like
listening
that.
to this who just heard you say that COVID line, like, all right,
Yeah.
we get it. Yeah,
Yeah,
you love
Jay.
your kids. Like, what? You had to take a break, come on now.
We would
Like,
drive around the block. Like Amanda and I would take turns driving around the block just to get out.
To
But
get
like,
away, to get
but yeah, but I
I
also think the other side of that coin is I want them to see me pursuing what I'm passionate about. If it was just the me before I started comedy, I just as home, I think I was a lot angrier. I was an angrier person because I was always felt like I wasn't able to do what I wanted in education at the time. And I just had all of this anger about it, that I just was an angry person. And I don't like that guy. I don't want that guy to come back. So, and I don't think they would either. So,
Right.
and so I think that for them to see me pursue my passions, and then for them to see us benefits, like we're going to be we're going on vacation for Thanksgiving. It's going to be a really cool vacation. Last year we couldn't do that. Last year we did a vacation, but we went to like the Cartoon Network hotel, which was great. We loved it, but it was a cheaper vacation. This year we're looking at cruises and an all-inclusive resort in Mexico. So it's
Boom.
like they'll like that stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, did you like that vacation? Okay. Well, guess what? Daddy's going out and Daddy's going to be gone for a week.
Yeah.
But so I think if I can do some of those things, then I can overcome some of that. And then the second part, can I overtake nature? I believe that I have to try.
Yeah.
I believe that it's our job to at least try to do as much as possible to see where the ceiling is. But if you go too hard, then it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Then you're always nagging. I don't want the only memory of them is me nagging them to pick up before they even started to play, you know?
Gotcha.
So it's a tough one. I think you got to kind of be fluid. It's like the call with the sports thing. You got to read the defense. And sometimes you undercut them and you teach those things. Even as coaches, you teach them like, hey, he's not, set up on the inside of the umpire so that he gets blocked on that outside. And if you don't move your glove too much, you might give you the corner,
right.
And then we teach some of those.
I totally
things.
got that.
Like if you block out if you block out the view of the plate and you set up there and he hits that spot, then you'll probably get that call. But that's not by the book. That was still a ball, So it's like you have to. There's just too much fluidness.
Yeah, let us know what you think in the comments, people, because we're wrapping up here. You guys got maybe some shows and stuff coming up, but yeah, let us know what you think. The nature versus nurture thing is. See, I always love the nature thing because it also has to do with your environment. So that's what I meant by like change, because sometimes you're a product of that environment,
right.
But at the same time, you can have parents who nurture you to look at your environment and to be conscious of it. Yeah. And to know that like things with diet, access to food, like, as they're tied together, education, you might not have this, but we can go and find programs, which, I know Jace talked about it a bunch. Mm-hmm. You're in extracurricular activities and stuff like that. And just really letting them be who they want to be. So it's one of those things where like, oh, I was exposed to this and maybe I wouldn't have been if you were not my dad. You know what I mean?
It also takes a village too, though. So there's this concept of it's not just on us. Like I get so anxious because I'm like, oh, that's a lot. It's a lot on me here to do for this person. And you're like, okay, there's other people, whether it's the person you had the child with, whether it's any surrogates or bonus parents,
aunt,
whoever.
Uncle, there's a lot of people around.
Because even my daughters, they'll come home from school and they'll talk about the things their teacher told them. And so like so when the doctor talks about, hey, we're noticing this, you got to start doing this, this, and this. And they'll say, oh yeah, my teacher was saying that. My grandma was telling me. And so that's the part where it takes a village and the environment. So even if you can't be, if they're in the care of someone that is able to step in and do some of those things, I think that's important for parents too, to get a break so that you're recharged in the best version of yourself when you're with them.
Yeah, that's important.
So that like you're not always at your wit's end with them, because then they're going to remember the trauma of how you reacted when you weren't your best self.
Oh man, if I only grew up in this time, I wish I was a kid
you
right
wish
now.
Jay was your dad.
All right, calm down a little bit, but still.
Get over my knee.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we can't edit this. Oh man,
no,
right.
That's just in there now.
Yeah, that's just in there.
Cool. Well, that's fun. But you guys got
I don't have any show. We have a wedding coming up. I'm really excited. My wife and I are going away for the weekend. No comedy. Hopefully I'll stick to that. No comedy this weekend. Go to jyodercomedy.com. I got a bunch of shows coming up before the end of October, though.
I think I got a Don't Tell comedy show on Friday, but I
Oh,
can't
fun.
say anything else.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
That's
it.
all you're allowed to say.
Done.
So Albert
Done.
Davis _4th.
That's me. You'll
Underscore
see it-
letter
you'll see
four.
it on
Danny
there.
told. So
I hope I don't get in trouble.
And then check out the at Seriously Dad on YouTube and
Instagram.
Instagram as well. Check it out.
leave
subscribe.
a review.
Yeah,
Seriously?
Tell us what you think.
I love that, by the way.
I know, I love it too. I'm just getting over to the video, so now we have just awkward because I forgot we do this not live
we
ever.
still
So then
live?
I'm like,
Are we still live?
yeah, we're gonna go to the ending here. There we
Thank
go.
you
guys.
for watching.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you next
Seriously.
time.
Seriously, Dad.
Seriously,
Dad. Seriously, Dad.
Dad. Seriously,
Seriously, Dad.
How you doing? This is Neil Wood from the Cult of Us podcast, speaking on behalf of Drop 10 Media Network, the network you're currently listening to. Make sure to check out all the other podcasts on the network. You can go to drop10.com to check them all out. Make sure to like, subscribe on everything that you see Drop 10 on. We appreciate it. Go to drop10.com now.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.